and what the changes actually are. We introduced a status, so the possibility to say whether your question is ready or not yet ready, so still being worked on. And this, along with this, came also the possibility to introduce comments, so to tell the people around me why I changed something or why I think this question still needs to be improved before it can be used in a quiz or even in an exam. We thought about statistics, which are an important measurement that help you decide whether your question needs to be improved or is all right as it is. So we introduced that into the question bank. So you can see this directly when working on the banks. And we also added the usage, which gives you an overview on where your questions are used, so in which courses, in which quizzes they are used, and how many attempts you have on these quizzes. So not create the workflow behind, but we offered the technicalities and the possibility for each institution to introduce for themselves on an organizational level how they can handle questions well, also in larger groups. And with question banks growing, of course, there was also the need of finding questions. Back in 311, finding questions was difficult. So you really had to know in which course, in which bank, and in which category you stored your question. And this, for a lot of people, was a major challenge, understandably. So they asked for a filter, or a possibility to find their questions in a more easy way by looking for metadata. And I think I won't explain too much on this because this is most easily seen then in the demo, how this filter works and what possibilities you have. So these are the major three use cases we work with. The question bank, that is one place for all questions that can be used in several places though. Then the possibility to have a question creation workflow to work together on these banks in a transparent and sensible way, and the possibility to find your questions in an easy manner. And with this, I hand over to Tim to present to you the features that have been introduced in the last two and will be introduced in the next Moodle version.
Right. Thank you very much, Antonia. So the delivery of this project started with Moodle version 4, and in Moodle version 4, we started some of the underlying features for the workflow, like introducing versions and statuses and displaying the other information in the question bank. We had to do that first. And then we worked with the other features, and really it was Moodle version 5 where our original vision of those three use cases was completed. So can we move on to the next slide, please? So in this version, we finally got to the point where questions could be shared between courses. That's, I think, the main thing Luca is going to demo when we get to the demo in a minute. And also we finished, in earlier versions, we had put in place the skeleton of a improved filtering system, but it was in Moodle 5 that we added the ability to search on all the different things, most of the different things you would like to search on. There are still more search conditions we would like to add. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, oh, and also throughout the life of the project, as well as the main project goals, we made various smaller improvements, either improvements to things that have always been a problem or things that we had done earlier in the project that we were starting to get feedback on. So These are mostly small usability things, but they make a difference. Things like putting the delete action last in the menus because it's less important, or when previewing a question, make it obvious which version is being previewed. Yes, let's move on to the next slide. So in Moodle 5.1, I mean, I just said in Moodle 5, we finished our original project goals, but we only sort of finished. I think there are various ways people think about software, but a way of thinking about software that I like is as a garden. If you've just planted a lot of new plants in a garden, it looks very raw and it's not really finished. A garden needs to sort of grow and mature for a few seasons while still being tended to look like a really beautiful garden. So that's what we've done since we sort of finished in Moodle 5. We've tended our garden, we've listened to the comments of people who've been starting to move to these versions and then made things better. So can we have the next slide, please? So in Moodle 5, there were lots of very small changes, just listening to what the people starting to use the new system were saying. The other thing, if you look, the third item in this list, backup and restore, if you look at that, well, I look at bug numbers. I look at a bug number starting with 4. You can see all the recent things we've worked on. These are the identifiers in the Moodle tracker. And in recent years, we're in numbers starting with an 8. For an issue to have a number starting with 4 means it's been a problem for a very, very long time. For very many years, everyone has known there have been big problems with backing up and restoring questions, which were just impossible to solve before. But in fact, one of the reasons for doing shared question banks is it finally lets us bring order to the world of backup and restore. So there were some long problems there that have been problems for many years that we have finally started to fix. The other thing that happened at this time is, of course, with the big change to shared question banks, upgrading a big Moodle site with many question banks was a complicated process. And we thought we had tested it and it was pretty reliable, but still some of the first people to upgrade found some additional problems, mainly caused by old data in their database that wasn't quite consistent. So we had to make, based on their feedback, we made the process of upgrading to Moodle 5 much more reliable. Let's move on to the next slide. And the next one, please. So in terms of what's coming up in Moodle 5.2, we think the release is coming in a few weeks, because in a couple of weeks is when the deadline is to finish developing new features, and then the actual release follows from some weeks of testing. So again, it's more of the same, more of listening to the users and making improvements, but there are some quite significant ones here. One thing we discovered, it was actually at the global MoodleMoot in Edinburgh last autumn, was we now have these nice new shared question banks, but everyone's Moodle site is old and done, they didn't have these facilities, and now people want to move their old question banks and tidy them up and move the questions into shared places. So to enable that, we've now got a nice way of moving entire categories of questions from one question bank to a different one. And also other tidying up, like making it really easy to rename your categories so you can organize your question bank. As well as that, there have been many other smaller usability improvements. Also, we thought we'd fix backup and restore, but once we said this is fixed, people kept pointing out very obscure situations that still weren't working. And so we continued to get more and more unlikely situations that were still breaking backup and restore, and we've been fixing those. And also, having sort of finished all the feature work, we've actually found some time to clean up some of the code behind the scenes to make it easier to maintain in the future. So I've now just talked about what we've done, but now I'm going to hand over to Luca so he can show you what we've done.
Thanks very much, Tim. Let me try to grab over the screen. I have
I will
a
stop
green
sharing.
border. Yeah, I see a green border. Can you see my slide, which will show?
We can see that, Luca. You might want to zoom in a little bit.
Yes, I can do that. This is, yeah, here
That's
as
probably,
well.
yeah, it's better.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good. Thanks, Tim. Good hint. So I'm here in a course, and getting access to your question bank is still the same process as previous. It's located in the same place. So here you go to the question bank in a course. I have a course here with already some question banks, and you can see them on top, and on the bottom there's activities which have question banks on their activity context level. You can soon see that there's a non-quiz activity that features a question bank. This is a student quiz here. What is the point of having, or if I want to create an additional question bank, I just click the new button, and I'm able to create a new question bank here. But basically, what is the point of creating a new question bank? Why is it good having multiple one in a course? Well, it can be that in one you have set up a schematic functionality of different system with different categories, and in a second question bank you want a completely different system of categories. So this will be possible if you insert two question banks. Then along with this question bank comes also the possibility to be able to use and to modify those questions. As you heard Antonia say before, it's now no matter anymore or where a question is situated. You can add a question of any question bank you have access to, no matter in what course it's situated, into your quiz. So the role of editing teacher normally has the right to add and modify questions, whilst the role of non-editing teacher just can add questions. They can go and add questions, but not modify or delete them. So it's possible that it's possible that in order to be able to manage all those capability and rights, to give you write access to that question bank, but only read access to this one, it's necessary to have two question banks. I should force to a different course. Yeah, I missed. The slides went
No,
away.
we lost
The slides.
No, not the slides.
The audience.
The audience.
But they're back again.
Sorry.
It works again, probably. Can you hear us, Don?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Don,
Okay.
can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Don, which was the last bit of the demo you saw?
Pardon?
What was the last part of the demo you saw?
Maybe we can just start off with where the,
1 minute
course
ago,
without
I
question
ran
bank.
out to get the power fixed on this and some coffee, and so it's 1 minute we missed.
Okay, yeah. In that minute, I told the audience of if you are in a quiz on how it's possible to see where a question does come from. If a question is not in that question in the quiz context itself, then it has a little pill, and the pill shows in what question bank the question comes from. And clicking up on that pill brings you directly to that question bank, and you see this TF1 question I've created here. Equally, if I'm in a quiz and want to add a new question to it, then the dialog to add the question is has more possibilities now, because you have to go and steer towards the question bank you want to take the question from. So I'm in this quiz here. I have, as I known on the questions, the add question button here. But when I do, I want to add it from question bank. The button here that on the top right that lets you switch to another question bank is new. And this dialog will show you the recently accessed question banks, whether they are in that course or in a different course. And if I'm hesitating, maybe not see it directly here, this search goes to find all question bank and question bank categories I have access to. So I just can take the questions off this question bank here. It's empty. Same goes with adding of a random question. Here, of course, it's the same. If you want to add a random question, where do you want to take the random question from? That can be in a completely different question bank. So I take it from that question bank, and here I want to take it from that category here. Here, it's the example where you also can see the filters. The filters are, of course, also possible to add to when you add a question to a random question. And here are the newly introduced filters. The filters are also seen in a question bank overview page. So where you see all the questions. And here the filters can also be added, and most of these filters have not been there in versions previously to Moodle 3.11. What our recent changes are that only came in 5.2, that will be released in April, is the view on the category part of the question bank. You have questions, import, export, and categories. And this view here has been modernized. So what changes here is that it leans towards the quiz and the course and the course category management user interface. It looks similar, and it has more modern and up-to-date functionalities in order that you can just drag, drop, reorder as you are able in a course index as well, if in edit mode. And the times of the old arrows and fiddly things to get things in order are long gone. In 5.2, the possibility to collapse and to expand will be added newly. The new functionality will come the new functionality is here to in place edit default category names. So I can add here a number and further, which I can't show yet because it's in integration, but it will probably make 5.2. There's a further possibility that you will be able to move entire quiz categories with all their sub question categories with all their subcategories entirely to another question bank. So for managing questions and question category, this will be a huge step forward. That was my demo of the functionality we have been adding, and I yield back, I think, now to Thomas.
Yes, and Antonia, can you share the slides, or should I share it myself?
I can do. I will just have to jump to the correct ones then. So here we go.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Yeah, the milestones. If you jump to the next slide, it's looking at the list. It's quite impressive how many versions we already affected with our project. What started as a project for 4.0, I come back to that just in a second. We've managed to improve basically every version with one or another small or bigger feature, or at least a longer list of bug fix. And if you have a look at the next slide, then we see some numbers, or it's already been mentioned who is contributing code. We've been working for a long time with Catalyst, and we're very happy. One thing, and that's my part about how to deal with this kind of project, we just realized that it was a good idea to have Catalyst Australia working with us, since they are that close to Moodle HQ in Australia. But we then realized that organizing meetings with guys from the other end of the world, especially 11, 12, or 13 time zones away, is quite difficult. And that was one of the reasons why we decided to go with Catalyst UK or EU, based in the UK, who are just closer. It's much, much easier to have meetings with them to be better aligned. So next slide, please. As the other three already mentioned, we made it, sharing of question over courses. This core feature we started several years ago is now into core. By the end of 2024, we were kind of astonished when Luca came up with this number. So we've collected over $1 million Australian dollars for this project by about 20 institutions over the day, over the whole time.
Let's pause for a round of applause. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, well, we had started back then discussion on what's next, and I will close my part with that question. But let's jump on to a slide with numbers. So we had about 52 issues in total, which is in the most recent epic subcollided. And yeah, many of them, as you see, 31 are closed. Many others are in progress, and only 8 are open. But let's jump to where it all starts. It all started with a hook. I don't know whether you remember, there have been times where SafeExam Browser, the tool we are using for online assessments all over the world, wasn't really connected to Moodle. And it's not possible to use SafeExam Browser without what is called hook in the software system it should secure. And back in 2018, we had the idea that it should be possible to establish this hook in Moodle. And yeah, it was. We already did it locally, but this should be a feature of Moodle itself, we thought. And then we jumped over to the HQ, tried to convince Martin and Sander back then. And it was not an easy way. I don't know how often you talk to Martin Dugiamas about online assessment. He is not the guy very happy or very thinking about summative online assessment at the end of a course. He is, and I perfectly understand that from a pedagogical point of view, more into formative assessment techniques and other assessment techniques. But at the end of the day, we've succeeded with kind of a small effort. We made it into 3.9 core, and that was a very success for us back then. For us, I've worked back then at ETH Zurich. And if you go to the next slide, and in one afternoon, I just had the idea that, well, we do have this gap between 3.11 and 4.0. What if we could have a look at this sharing question item? Because many requests from our lectures have been, well, I use my question here. Why do I have to copy it to use it in another course? It would be so much easier if I could just drag it from another course and just reuse it. And if you press the next button, from this idea in an afternoon, I just took my phone and rang Luca. Hey, Luca, I have an idea. It's a bit a crazy one. What if we try and use this gap between 3.11 and 4.0, which has been, I think, 18 months, to implement this? He said, well, that's a good idea. A bit crazy, but it's good. We do have to have several guys on board, especially Tim, because he is responsible for all the quiz things. And if you go on to the next slide, we then sat down and had longer discussions, collaborative discussions on how could we implement that. And I was in the open source community back then as well, but I learned a lot from Tim, how to handle community, how to deal with community, how to ask community, what should we do? What is the best? Why should we do? And how should we approach? And some points later, we had an idea how this could be done. We had a connection to HQ, to Catalyst, and to several institutions around us, including our institutions, who said, well, that's a good idea. That's worth to invest money. Let's start our journey. And we suddenly realized that it's not enough to be 4 or 5 institutions. There need to be many, many more. And if you go to the next slide, we started this crowdfunding journey, I would say. Did some phone calls to colleagues we know that they could be interested, did many presentations at many conferences, sat together with others, just talking about what do you think about, could this make sense? Try to grow a small plant with this kind of, oh, it would be awesome if you could spend 500 euros, 500 Australian dollars, that would be enough. We would be very happy if we could take you on our list of contributors. And then at some point we have been 10 contributors and we realized, okay, that could be enough to start at least. And we started, and that's another recommendation and done. That was something you asked us for having this kind of recommendation. I don't think that it makes sense to plan a project to the end before starting a crowdfunding. It's this kind of, you need a threshold, you need to have some money, you need to have a common idea. And to have a common idea is not that easy as it sounds. As Antonia mentioned at the beginning,
Oh,
We lost you.
yeah.
Yeah, we lost Thomas. So as I mentioned in the beginning, it's not so easy always to get the common understanding even of a workflow in the question bank. I guess that's what Thomas wanted to say. So let's just wait a bit until Thomas is back here. If anyone has a question in between, we might fill in that question. Otherwise, I think we will just be a little bit patient.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, while we've got the screen on the money, are you fundraising for 2026? Or is the project over?
No, we are fundraising for 2026. The project is not over. We're always happy and we have things that we can go forward. Thomas, you're back again. Yeah.
Yes, sorry guys, I just lost connection.
We lost you when you said, as Antonia mentioned, really with that word, and I finished the sentence for you. and then asked for some questions, which now have been answered. So we hand over back to you.
Yeah, and the last question is a good one because
there seems to be a major
Yeah.
problem. But talking about the fundraising part, we might just actually sneak in that bit. So this is the list of our contributors prior to the Moodle User Association of Japan contributing. And we decided to show this for once in a map. And as you can see, it's a European map. So with the Moodle User Association of Japan, we got much more international. And it was a bit a challenge to have all of this on one slide because the world is quite big and Europe and Japan are not so close. So actually, it's the first time we have a contributor which is not a development company outside of Europe. And this is a big thing for us. And I would also like to mention that the money that came from the Moodle Users Association Japan came just about in the right moment where we had a little financial gap to continue working, and it was you to fill this gap. So it was you to make it possible that we did not have to stop work in between. And now I hope Thomas is stable back, and I jump back to the slide we ended up.
Yes, sorry guys, once again. What I wanted to mention, and once again, Antonia gave me a good word. It isn't always easy to fundraise these kind of projects, and there has been several points in time where we just run almost or run out of money because there has been some contributions, but only possible in the next year, and so on and so forth. One thing mentioned already by Antonia and by Tim is that doing these kind of changes normally bring a lot of work afterwards. After you can say, yes, we've done it, you realize that there are bugs, that there are things which do not work, which you do not intended. And these parts has to be developed as well, but cannot be sold as good as a new feature. And so we really try to have in every release some features we could advertise, we could make ourselves visible and take a step forward. One thing which is crucial here as well is this having a common sense on what could be done next. And common sense between us, the four of us, is difficult. Having a common sense between the 15 to 20 most recent contributors is even more difficult. And bringing that to a point where everybody says, yes, that's the next big thing, that's the thing we should do within the next 6 months is a difficult discussion, and sometimes even a difficult, I would say a threshold to continue the project, because you have to be convinced and on fire for the topic the next to be released. And it was, at the beginning, it was commonly clear that it's the sharing possibility, it's the filter possibility, it's the creation and the workflow possibility. And we are now at the point where we have some ideas, but we are not sure whether these ideas are the big ones, the good ones, the ones the community want. And so we are in the midst of the discussion. What do we do next? We do have more ideas than money and than time and than lifetime, honestly. So it's that's not the point. It's the point where we can have the most impact for everybody. And that's the point where you come in, where all our contributors come in, and where the community comes back in. what is needed, where do you want to go? And that's the discussion we have at the moment. And so I would like to open the question, and one already is answered. Yes, we take contributions for 2026. Yes, we are fun to continue to do the homework for the most recent developments we did and do the bug fixing there, but also for going for a next step. But what could this be? So I would like to thank you at this point and open the discussion to questions, to other ideas, to hints, and to the three others of this group, where I would like to take the chance and thank you guys for joining us on this journey. It's a pleasure to work with you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. This is exciting. Thank you for coming. And we have some questions ready. I've already asked Hiroyuki. Hiroyuki Harada is one of the server engineers who are here from my university, and he has the daunting task of jumping into the upgrading in March, which was already started, upgrading to the new question bank. Could you ask your question?
Hello, thank you for the big work, hard work. Our university has a huge size of the question bank. Okay, we have more than 15 years of history, and the teachers don't want to delete their old questions. So we have a huge size now. But I think our Moodle has some hiding question, or maybe nobody used the question. For example, we have some quitted teachers already, or maybe nobody using question more than 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So I want to ask how to reduce our huge size of question bank, or I want to get some idea how to delete our questions. So during your slide, I found on the filter, you can filter by teachers who wasn't made. Does it right? So if the original teacher who made a question is already quitted, and maybe nobody using more than 1 year, I can decide to delete the question, like a bulk delete. So if you guys can make some guideline or procedure how to reduce the huge size of question bank, it's very helpful for everybody, I think.
Did you get that?
Yes. Shall I answer this?
Please.
Please go.
Yes, that is a very good question. It reminds me also there was some similar discussion when we presented at MoodleMoot Global. So yes, in a question bank, you can search to see who created or last edited a question, and you can see when it was last edited. Searching by whether a question is used anywhere is something we would like to do, but unfortunately that there's not a nice interface for that one yet, because of the way the data is stored. It wasn't possible to make the searching work efficiently. But I'm just thinking, I think as an offline database query, there is a way to do it. But I think we've done that.
Database.
directly in the database, there is a way to write the query, but it's quite slow, so it's best run offline. I'm just trying to think if there's I think we've got that query somewhere, so I'm wondering if there's a way to share that effectively. Maybe I need to find that and email it to Dom, and you can pass it on.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Another point I will make is about how the upgrade works. I can't remember quite how big our question bank is at the Open University, but the way the upgrade works is a lot of the work of the upgrade to Moodle 5 that's going to take a very long time runs in the background. So the actual upgrade itself completes relatively quickly, and then over the course of the next day, well, at the Open University, we have very big question banks, and the complete upgrade completed after a day. So that wasn't too bad, and we'd been able to test this. And what happens is, while it's waiting for the upgrade, any part of the system that's not been upgraded, students can still attempt quizzes. It's just teachers can't edit questions in that question bank until the upgrade has run. So the upgrade doesn't take your site offline for a very long time, and the site goes on working during that. You just need to warn teachers they won't be able to edit quizzes or questions. In our server, I say it was about a day. Just on this day, just don't, and that was fine. So we tried to make the upgrade as efficient as possible. Sorry,
we had a similar experience. No, you weren't finished. I just sneaked in. We had a similar experience. We warned our users prior to the upgrade that this will happen, so that the site will be running, but that teachers won't be able to edit their questions for a little while. We didn't specify exactly how long because we didn't know either. And we ran into one problem that really caused us some trouble. That was that this process working in the backup ran out of CPU. So it somehow stopped, but not completely. And with that, we lost a lot of pictures. So the questions were transferred, but the pictures were lost. And this was not an easy one. Fortunately, our developer was able to fix that and to get all the pictures back. But that actually then ended up in the users writing to us that their questions were lost during the backup, during the upgrade process. And we then had to manually start that cleanup process in the background to get the pictures back. So now we're done with everything. All the pictures are back, at least in the questions that were still needed. But this is really something I'm telling everyone since then, have an eye on the possibility for your process to really run through smoothly without any loss of connection or anything.
How about duplicates? We probably have 100,000 or 200,000 questions, a lot with pictures and video attached or audio. And more than half of that are duplicates created inadvertently over time. How do we get rid of those?
Finding duplicates is very difficult because while they may have started off as exact duplicates, if one was changed slightly, then you don't necessarily need exact matching. And to really check that two questions are identical, you've got the question type. You've got the question text and you've got all the choices, and there's a lot of textual content that has to be compared. And then but it needs to be compared, but not exactly. So finding exact duplicates is hard. So we don't have good tools for that, sadly.
Yes, this has been a discussion we had with several people about duplicates. And there is, on the one hand side, there is this bug we used to have that the questions have been duplicated in the same course. when you did export import of quizzes or question banks. And for that one, if I remember correctly, you can run a cleanup job. So for the technical problem, but for questions that have been copied voluntarily by people from one course to another, this possibility does not exist. And the essence of the whole discussion is how to know which is the duplicate or the original you want to keep. Because maybe it's not even the original you want to keep, but it's one of the 5 duplicates is the best one with a slight change, and it's that one you want to keep. But as a system administrator, you can never know which is the correct one. So it always needs to be a human to decide which is the duplicate you really want to keep. Maybe your users are working differently than mine, but I have people who have very clear opinions on what is correct and what is not, and what is the thing they want to keep. And I would not hesitate to decide for them because they also have different opinions, and they are not reluctant to tell me that I was wrong, and I didn't do a good job. So I leave the decision to them, which might also feel like leaving all the work that I should do to them. But as the situation is as is, I have no means to decide which was the correct duplicate.
I would love to talk more about this, but other questions? Yes. Tom and Travis, tell us about Moodle HQ. It was through their recommendation that we decided to contribute. And we're assuming that that is still continuing. You have a good relationship with Catalyst, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very much our product teams work closely with the whole community, in particular the quiz and question bank team on this, working with Catalyst. So it's just fantastic to see this kind of feature being built by the community. It's such a popular and powerful feature, and so yeah, absolutely, it's continuing.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't see any obstacle to encouraging the Moodle Association of Japan to continue supporting such a wonderful effort to make the question bank better and improve it. I think it's great that you're doing it. And also, about duplicates, maybe you just have a function in the question bank that can detect duplicates in one question bank. That might be a start, you know.
Okay.
And then you could choose, as Antonia pointed out, you need a human to choose which is the correct one. But at least if you had a function just for one question bank, check the questions in here, look for duplicates and list them out for the user to see which one.
Does that make sense?
Might be something worth starting with, a small duplicate checker.
Well,
yeah.
That point that it's always worth starting small with something that's possible is definitely true. Yes, and the other way you can start, it's not a perfect solution, but there are various tools in Moodle for building ad hoc reports across the database, and using those sorts of tools, you might be able to write a query. Because again, it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to find, maybe you want a query that does some simple checks to identify questions that are possibly duplicate. If a human is going to have to make the decision anyway, then just highlighting ones that are possible duplicates might be useful enough, and therefore we should do that. So yeah, another good idea. And I was going to say something else about this.
Tim, or even it checks the local question bank for duplicates, and then if you say, okay, this is the question I want to keep, it goes and makes sure all the quizzes in that course have that question and disconnects all the other questions before deleting them. you know, that kind of, just start small.
Oh, that would be a nice feature. Again, it's another little feature, but again, separate little features that can each be built. The ability to swap out one question in a quiz with another similar one is another nice feature that's somewhere. Again, we know it would be nice. Exactly how? Yeah.
What are the 5.3? What's the list for 5.3 of improvements? Is it something like that?
No, because I just came to
Of course not.
They're thinking. They're thinking. Don't put too much pressure on them.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think we have a clear list yet. It is just listening to folks like you, our users, for the ideas. But it is likely to be, as I say, we have identified this topic, this theme area that people need to be able to organize and tidy up the old question banks they have. So these are the kind of features. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas. These are the kind of ideas we want to hear.
And we'll end with that. It is now time for our closing ceremony, and they're opening the walls, and we're going to have a big room. And we thank you very much for coming and joining us here at MoodleMoot Japan. And we hope for a new great relationship. Another word, Tom?
No, I just want to say thanks. And you've got them on like background blur, so they can't see us, Tom.
Oh, okay. How do I remove the background blur?
Yeah,
we
we heard that it was
ourselves.
Travis speaking, and yeah. The picture is here. It's Tom.
No.
That is.
Oh no!
Everyone is waving to you.
Okay, we're waving. Hiroyuki, wave.
We can see that. Thank you so much
Okay.
We have
for
seen the number of
hosting
people.
us.
Yes. Thanks
And
for
have a nice
attending.
closing session.
Thanks for your
Thank you very much.
Thank
funding.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a great day. Sunday, March 1st.
Likewise.
Let's move on. Thank you. All right.